I always start with this land acknowledgement. I'm on the land of the Mi'kma'ki in the ancestral unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. I live in Nova Scotia, Canada. And today we're working with standing tall and strong. And some of the elements, we've been kind of working around the edges of this all week with some of the elements of how that works for us. One of the things that we know is that hiding and shame are closely related, and that we hide when we're afraid that we're going to be judged or shamed. And part of this is really nervous system response from our childhood when we might have been bullied. Some of these images really show, maybe you were the black sheep in the family, or maybe you had a lot of processing issues or dyslexia. And when we have anything like that that sets us apart, it can be really difficult because there tends to be a bit of a mob mentality against people who are a little bit different. And if that happened when we were children, some of that is things that we really can't control. I don't know if anyone remembers that movie Mask. It was such a beautiful movie. You can probably still get it now. We can get all of those old movies now. And coming out, to be coming out as somebody who's not heterosexual, not born in the body that they relate to. So there's a lot of different ways. And we can be the black sheep of the family or the pink sheep of the family. But we can be all kinds of, there's all kinds of different elements of this. So the point I was really wanting to pause with and look at is we're shamed for our differences. And so we have this narrowly defined acceptable norm. And the only people who are acceptable are generally white, heterosexual men and women. But men have more power. And then there's a class system. So it's not all men, it's men of a certain middle and upper class. There's people who are confident and who carry themselves well. They've done studies that found that elementary school teachers rate good-looking people, good-looking children in their classes as smarter. And so there's all these elements that fit in with how we arrive at feeling somehow shamed and feeling like there's something we have to hide. So when we're talking about standing tall and strong, we're coming at it from both directions. One is to increase the things that help us to feel more resilient, build resilience and strength. And the other is to look at the things that get in the way of that, especially as we were children, because they really make a big difference. So the way our nervous system works is that we are always unconsciously assessing threat. Dr. Stephen Porges calls that neuroception. Our perception of threat is unconscious. And we have a relative degree of safety or danger in revealing who we are, and it depends on where we are. So for me, when I moved to a big city, came out as a lesbian, I felt completely comfortable as a lesbian in that subculture. I had told my family, so I didn't have to hide in the family culture, but I certainly didn't feel very welcome. I was more tolerated than appreciated in that culture. And of course, we have our whole trauma history as well. One of the things that makes this interweaving really happen is that everybody has their own trauma history, but also everybody has their own approach to this, and everybody is at a different place. So when I came out, I was just like, this is me, accept it or not, but I'm not hiding who I am. And that wasn't it wasn't wrong. It wasn't probably as helpful as it could have been to some of the members of my family who were struggling with it. And at that time, there really weren't very many resources for it. But it's just to point out that all of these things that happen create this feeling of shame. So maybe it was for you, it was that your parents fought all the time, or you didn't grow up with the same level of house, your different level of poverty or financial resources. Lots of people have social anxiety, so that really creates this feeling. So one of the things that we can do now as adults is to really look at that and go, I did what I had to do to survive, and I did make it through. And some of the way we make it through is by hiding. And so not to shame ourselves around that we could really look at that and go, at the time, that was really my best option. I needed to fit in with my family group in order to survive. Or maybe I allied with a bully at school so that I wasn't going to get beat up, or we go along with the culture that we're in our family. So those cultural attitudes about those people aren't as good as us, or all of those things, we're not really able to challenge those things so well as a child. We have to fit in. So we could really acknowledge that that's a situation and that we could not shame ourselves for that. And we might also look at the habits that we have of hiding ourselves. So, hiding ourselves from other people. And if those are based on our childhood experiences, which they're highly influenced at least by that, then we can revisit that and update those habits. So, let's take a moment here just to pause and notice what's your response to the images on this page. We go back to looking at some of those images and to the feeling, some of those sentences. I was in prison, I slept around, my mom was fat, my parents fight. All of those things that we feel we have to hide. It's very common to have a culture of keeping secrets within the family. It's not allowed to reveal what's going on within your family structure. Notice your body and your breath, and if you need to just kind of go into a little bit more serious of a grounding, you could open your eyes and do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Really look around. Name 5 things that you can see or things. So do the practices and those tools that we know that work. You can hold your own hand, do some box breathing. Right here in this moment, as a resourced or a more resourced adult, we're looking back at what it was like for us in the past. Take a moment to really feel into that. So, one of the things that we know about shame is that we develop core deficiency beliefs about who we are. And I need to be perfect. Nobody loves me. I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. That feeling of I need to be perfect, especially, can create a lot of tension in our adult life. And it's not possible to be perfect. It's not possible to never make a mistake. And so we get into that kind of a lose lose situation where we're trying really hard. When we're really stressed, our conscious level brain doesn't tend to work as well. Or we procrastinate because we're in freeze and then we have to rush through things. And then we hide out. The mean inner critic often gets internalized by the time we're somewhere in our childhood. And so even if we get ourselves away from people who might have been doing that, we still have that inner critic going on. So it's really hard to be strong and powerful when we have that going on, when we secretly believe, I'm not worthy. Nobody loved me, and that means I'm not lovable. We need experiences in our nervous system to overcome some of those early childhood beliefs and experiences. So we're going to pause here for a while. Do I still need to hide? And if you want to close your eyes, that's fine. I'll read out what's on here. So, what we're going to do is bringing to mind experiences where you felt isolated and alone, shunned or not welcome, or when you had to pretend to be somebody else to be acceptable and included. So even though we might have been included, we have that feeling deep inside that it's not real because we're not really sharing who we are. So take your time with each memory. We're going to work with this for about 5 minutes, so you have lots of time. And let your adult self see your younger one, that one who felt alone and had to hide. And notice what validation your younger selves, your little ones, might need from you now. So this really depends on us staying present in our adult body, our adult self. So stay aware of your body and your breath. And just bring up a memory. If you have a visual image of yourself at that age, or maybe it was a image of your school picture that year or something, or another picture. Maybe it was a very specific set of words. Maybe it was an ongoing experience of being shamed. Nothing really stands out, but it was very pervasive. And see if you could allow that younger self to be seen just by your adult self, nobody else. Continue to notice your breath, your body, your resourced adult self. And you could try out some of these sentences here, or maybe there's other things coming up for you. I am sad you were shamed just for being you. That's a very difficult experience for a child and for an adult. I am sad you were shamed just for being you. You had to hide who you are to make it through and stay safe. It's not that you were a coward, not at all. You were trying to keep yourself safe and you had to hide to do that. And now we can look back at that and see and feel compassion perhaps for that child who felt they had to hide. I'm here now. I see you. I value you. I love you. And let that reverberate. It might be a nonverbal, you might be kind of sitting beside or holding that child in your mind's eye. Might be a felt sense of connecting. One of the things that can happen is that we'll notice that our mind went someplace else. We disconnected from this or dissociated. So if that happened, just simply bring yourself back. It's not a problem. It happens all the time. And then we notice, we come back. Maybe there is some part of me that still doesn't feel completely safe to be seen, still needs to hide. We could welcome that part. See if we could connect with that part. You don't need to hide from me. It's safe to be here with me right now. I can help. Sitting with this in a way that's really open with ourselves doesn't mean anything about I have to do this with other people. There's no expectations of that at all. Just this simple connection between your adult self and the younger part of you that feels that they needed to hide and maybe still do. Regulate your breath, relax your body. I'm here now. Even though you felt so alone before and you were alone, you're not alone anymore. I don't need to hide anymore. And notice if there was a response to that. There might have been. I had a little tingle in my chest. Oh, it sounds a little dangerous. So it's very common. This is the way the nervous system works. So just to notice, take some breaths. We're not doing anything particular. We're just doing an inquiry. We're looking. We don't have to take this out into the world in any way. We don't have to change anything. We're really just connecting with that younger self who had to hide. And we're looking to see how true that still is now that we're more resourced. And then let this particular part of the inquiry come to a rest. It is safe now to be who I am. So, again, from this groundedness in your healthy adult self, it's kind of a continuation from the last one. Who is the one hiding, and what reassurance do they need? And how would you know if it's safe now to be authentically who you are? What would have to change? What evidence would you need? What experiences would you need? The other side of that question is, how do I know that it's too dangerous? And to that, there might be an image of somebody or somebody's tone of voice or words they've said to you. We can convey a lot with just a look. We can feel very judged if someone has contempt on their face. And we're always vulnerable to that. So part of this is our window of tolerance that we work with all the time. And I tolerate somebody's judgment. And it's never going to be pleasant. We might get angry. We might set a boundary with them. We don't have to be around them. But we're really just looking at, is it possible for me to stay really true to who I am, even though I know that some people are not going to accept that? And it might be someone high stakes. Often it's someone in our family of origin. Could be a boss, a friend who treats you a certain way that you're no longer willing to be part of. So if you were to say this as a reverse inquiry, I can be fluid, open up, step back, no pressure or shame. I can be authentically who I am. And notice what your response is in your body to that. When we say something that doesn't feel completely true, often we'll have a rebuttal, either a tension in our body, or we'll hold our breath, or there'll be some kind of words, maybe an image of somebody's face. So I could just be who I am. Sometimes I'll be very open, sometimes I won't. I'll let myself monitor and decide that it's not going to be unconscious anymore. I'm not going to let that just be driven from my childhood when I had to hide. So that's kind of an ideal. And most of us, I'm sure all of us are there to some degree or another, and way more with some people and in some environments than with others. So, not to shame ourselves for that. Certainly not to shame ourselves for our past strategies to keep ourselves safe, and not to shame ourselves for what we still do Whether it makes sense in our conscious mind or not, we might look at something and go, well, I'm just fine. If they don't approve of me, I'm fine. And there's that part of us inside that's still really having a trauma response around that. No, that's not okay. We have all these associations that we're always working with our nervous system. So let yourself have exactly the experience that you're having. And see if you could let go of shaming yourself or pressuring yourself. And take a few deep breaths. Release any tension out of your body. And what could you do with that energy that you use right now for hiding? What would your life look like? And again, not to say I'm going to be completely open with everybody. That's not the goal. We're really looking at being more comfortable in our own skin, more open, perhaps, so that we're not using that energy for anxious, catastrophic thinking. We're not closing our body down. We can be open, free, confident that if we share more of who we are, that many people will be fine with that. And the ones that aren't, we can work with that. So, what could you use? What would your life be like if you didn't have to use that energy for hiding, if you could use it for something else? What would that be? And really imagine that in vividly using all of your senses. What would your body look like? Your confidence? What would your voice be like? So maybe around some people, you have a little bit of a tremor in your voice or you're not very confident. And then now you're breathing more deeply. You're relaxing your chest and your throat, and you can just be more open, more confident. So let yourself visualize that for a little bit. If I was completely comfortable with who I am, let yourself imagine that. And then let's move from that into the same kind of visualization, but just to go a little bit more deeply into it or a little bit more directed. So if you were to say it's safe to be who I am and it's safe to express who I am, notice your response. And I'll just read through these slowly. And you could read through them yourself and pick one or two, or you could just close your eyes and listen. It's safe to be and express who I am. I can align with what lights me up. Maybe there's something I'm nervous about doing, and now I can do that. Maybe I'll act in a play or whatever it might be. Go to a gathering. What would light you up? What really is juicy? What do you love to do that you don't so much? And some of that's COVID related, perhaps, with the lockdowns. But a lot of this is just that feeling of it's not quite safe to do it. And it might not even occur to us what we want to do. I accept my nervous system history. So it's just not a it's great necessarily, but just an acceptance. This is what my nervous system knows. I'm not powerless over it now. I can work with it. One of the ways to do that is to ease off on the pressure to always do something, always be perfect, always be what comes to mind for you. I could ease off on the pressure on myself. I could savor my unique inner authenticity. So, oftentimes in the world, in the relationships that we're in, we might be tolerated, but we're often not appreciated. So, that's something we could offer ourselves. Just right now in your heart center, keep your attention really grounded in this moment in time. I could savor and really appreciate who I am, my own authenticity. And when I'm not disconnected or dissociated, I can really offer myself this attuned empathy and respect. I can stay really connected. I know that I'm good enough to love as I am now. I don't have to improve or change. I'm good enough right now. I'm good enough for me to love as I am, and I'm good enough for other people to love as I am. And if that's not the way it's manifesting in the world right now, if that's not the way your experience is right now, maybe you're feeling like you're lonely or people don't love you. That's a natural way to look at it. And it's probably not completely true. And it's not your fault. So there's a lot of people that are really struggling. And we live in a culture that's not affirming of differences or even of our basic humanity. So being good enough to love right now as you are is something that we could really work with internally and then notice externally. I no longer have to hide who I am. I can stand tall and strong. I can be myself. You could have one or two hands on your heart as you say that. Really feel into that. I no longer have to hide who I am. I can stand tall and strong.